Welcome to Creepy, the best horror storyteller on YouTube.
Billy was a sweet and imaginative little boy, but he had one big fear: the boogeyman. He had heard stories about the boogeyman from his friends and siblings, and his mind would always wander to dark places when he was alone. Billy's parents were loving and supportive, but they didn't believe in the boogeyman. They tried to reassure Billy that there was nothing to be afraid of, but their words didn't seem to help. One night, Billy was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep. But the more he tried to relax, the more his mind started to race. He kept thinking about the boogeyman, and he couldn't shake the feeling that it was somewhere out there, watching him. Suddenly, Billy heard a noise. It was a soft scraping sound, like something was moving under his bed. Billy froze in terror. His heart was pounding in his chest, and he could barely breathe. The scraping sound came again. This time, it was louder. Billy could feel his breath coming in short, ragged gasps. He knew that he should get out of bed and run to his parents' room, but he was too scared to move. Billy slowly lifted the covers and peered under the bed. It was dark down there, but he could see something moving in the shadows. It was a pair of glowing eyes. Billy screamed in terror and scrambled out of bed. He ran to his parents' room and burst in. "Mommy, Daddy," he cried. "The boogeyman's under my bed." Billy's parents woke up with a start. They saw the look of terror on Billy's face and knew that something was wrong. "What's wrong, Billy?" his mother asked. "What happened?" "The boogeyman's under my bed," Billy repeated. "It's watching me." Billy's father got out of bed and went to Billy's room. He turned on the light and looked under the bed, but there was nothing there. "There's nothing under your bed, Billy," he said. "It was just your imagination." But Billy didn't believe him. He knew what he had seen. He had seen the boogeyman. Billy's parents tried to calm him down, but it was no use. He was too scared to go back to his room. He slept with his parents that night, and every night after that. Billy's fear of the boogeyman continued to grow. He started to see it everywhere. He would see it out of the corner of his eye, or in the shadows at night. He would even dream about it. Billy's parents were worried about him. They didn't know what to do. They tried to talk to him about his fears, but he wouldn't open up to them. He was too afraid to talk about the boogeyman. One night, Billy had a particularly bad nightmare. He dreamed that the boogeyman had dragged him under his bed and taken him away. He woke up screaming and crying. Billy's parents rushed to his room. They comforted him and told him that it was just a dream. But Billy knew better. He knew that the boogeyman was real. Billy's parents knew that they couldn't let his fear of the boogeyman control his life. They decided to take him to see a therapist. The therapist helped Billy to understand his fears and to develop coping mechanisms. But Billy's fear of the boogeyman never completely went away. Even as an adult, Billy still has a lingering fear of the boogeyman. He always checks under his bed before he goes to sleep, and he still has nightmares about it from time to time. But Billy knows that he is not alone. Many people have a fear of the boogeyman or of other monsters that lurk in the dark. It is a fear that is deeply rooted in our human psyche. Billy's story is a reminder that the boogeyman is more than just a fictional monster. It is a real fear that can have a profound impact on our lives. Part 2. Billy was now 10 years old, and his fear of the boogeyman was still very real. He had been seeing a therapist for a few years, and he had made some progress. But he still had nightmares about the boogeyman on a regular basis. One night, Billy was lying in bed, trying to fall asleep. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. He felt like he was being watched. Billy lay awake for hours, listening to every sound. He heard the creaking of the floorboards, the ticking of the clock, and the wind whistling outside. But there was something else. Something that Billy couldn't quite put his finger on. Suddenly, Billy heard the scraping sound again. It was the same sound he had heard years ago when he was just a little boy. The sound of the boogeyman moving under his bed. Billy's heart started to race. He could feel his breath coming in short, ragged gasps. He was too scared to move. The scraping sound came again, this time louder. Billy could feel the boogeyman getting closer. Billy knew that he had to do something. He couldn't just lie there and let the boogeyman take him. He had to fight back. Billy gathered all of his courage and sat up in bed. He reached over and turned on the light. The boogeyman was right there, under his bed. It was tall and gaunt, with pale skin and glowing red eyes. Billy screamed and tried to get out of bed, but the boogeyman grabbed his leg. Billy struggled and kicked, but the boogeyman was too strong. The boogeyman dragged Billy under the bed. Billy screamed for help, but no one could hear him. Billy's parents woke up to the sound of Billy screaming. They rushed to his room, but he was gone. Billy's parents searched the entire house, but they couldn't find him anywhere. He had vanished without a trace. Billy's parents were devastated. They didn't know what had happened to their son. They called the police, but they couldn't find any leads. Billy's disappearance was a mystery. The police never figured out what happened to him. Some people believe that he was taken by the boogeyman. Others believe that he was kidnapped by a human predator. But whatever happened to Billy, one thing is for sure, he was never seen or heard from again. Billy's story is a tragic reminder that the boogeyman is more than just a fictional monster. It is a real fear that can have a devastating impact on our lives. Part 3. The years passed, but Billy's parents never gave up hope of finding him. They continued to search for him every day, but they never found any clues. Billy's case became a national sensation. People all over the country were fascinated by the story of the little boy who had vanished without a trace. There were many different theories about what had happened to Billy. Some people believed that he had been taken by the boogeyman. Others believed that he had been kidnapped by a human predator. Still others believed that he had run away from home. But none of the theories could be proven. Billy's case remained a mystery. One day, Billy's parents received a letter in the mail. The letter was from an anonymous source, and it claimed to know what had happened to Billy. The letter said that Billy had been taken by a group of people who worshiped the boogeyman. The letter said that Billy was being held captive in a secret location, and that he would be sacrificed to the boogeyman on the night of his 18th birthday. Billy's parents were horrified. They took the letter to the police, but the police didn't believe it. They thought it was just a hoax. But Billy's parents knew better. They knew that the letter was real. They knew that their son was alive and that he was in danger. Billy's parents decided to take matters into their own hands. They hired a private investigator to help them find Billy and rescue him. The private investigator was able to track down the group of people who worshiped the boogeyman. He discovered that they were planning to sacrifice Billy on the night of his 18th birthday. On the night of Billy's 18th birthday, Billy's parents and the private investigator launched a raid on the group's secret hideout. They were able to rescue Billy and arrest the members of the group. Billy was finally safe. He was reunited with his parents, and he was able to start to rebuild his life. Billy's story is a reminder that even the darkest nightmares can have a happy ending. It is also a reminder that the boogeyman is not just a fictional monster. It is a real fear that can have a devastating impact on our lives. But Billy's story is also a story of hope. It is a story about how courage and determination can overcome even the most difficult challenges.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more similar horror stories.